Me and AAPI for putting this together. Really appreciate it. I'm honored to be here with you guys today because unfortunately this kind of stuff is happening way too much. Assalamu alaikum. Peace be unto you. One day, as school ended, two little preschoolers ran up to their mothers, super excited. One little boy was dark-skinned, dark-haired with beautiful big brown eyes, and the other little boy was fair-skinned, blonde-haired, blue-eyed with an adorable grin. "Look, Mom, we're twins!" And they were, because they were both had on yellow plaid collared shirts and black pants. When will these two best friends realize that they are different? Will it be a snide comment made by a classmate or a neighbor saying, "You can't be twins," because of the color of their skin? At some point in their lives, the color of their skin will become very relevant, mostly for the black friend. His driving lessons will include specific instructions on what to do if he gets pulled over, that his hands must always be seen. There may be certain neighborhoods that he should not choose to go running in. The white friend may not even be aware of these things. Fearing differences does not come by naturally. It's a learned behavior. One day, at a Best Cuts in Mentor, my very friendly Pakistani-American 4-year-old daughter tried to start a conversation with another little girl while she was waiting for her haircut. This little girl turns to her own mother and says, "Mom, I don't like Chinese girls. I like regular girls like Michelle from Full House." The observation that my daughter looked different from her was not surprising. What was surprising is that the mother said absolutely nothing. She didn't comment that my daughter was also a regular girl or that she's not Chinese, but most importantly, she didn't encourage her daughter to talk to mine at all. They just both turned away from us. I was flabbergasted. To this day, I regret not saying anything. I was too shocked by this little girl's obvious bigotry and the realization that prejudice and racism starts at home. It is a taught and learned behavior. The only way we can stop the hate is to recognize that it starts with biased societal norms and is reinforced at home and by individual communities. If you only socialize with people that look like you and consume mainstream media, everyone else looks foreign and different, and therefore someone to be feared or looked down upon. We must resist the temptation to perceive others as less than or to have an us versus them mentality. The increase in acts of hate and violence that have been directed at our Asian American and Pacific Islander brothers and sisters over the past year has been despicable. The rhetoric that attributes this global pandemic to a certain ethnicity is disgusting. We need to look at our differences, realize that they are not to be feared, but to be appreciated as divine diversity. In the Quran, chapter 49, verse 13, God says, "O mankind, we have created you, male and female, and have made you nations and tribes so that you may know one another. The noblest of you in the sight of God is the best in conduct. God is all-knowing, all-aware." We need to put aside our differences, appreciate and embrace our uniqueness, and support one another. We can only defeat hate with love, not tolerance, not acceptance, but genuine love and respect for what we would define as the other. Whether it be the color of our skin, the nation of our origin, the God we worship, the person we choose to love, or how we define our gender, we are all part of one community. We must look to our humanity and defend the rights of all people. In the words of Martin Luther King Jr., darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only hate can do that. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. Thank you.
Thank you. 刚才是伊斯兰教中心的副主席的讲话，团结起来，战胜仇恨。Our next speaker is Laura Wei, who is a 10th grader at Orange High School. Laura.
I was 13 in biology class. The teacher was talking about dissecting frogs when someone asked if she ever dissected something bigger like a cat or a dog. And that's when, in a brilliant moment of comedic timing, an older high school student turned to me in the back of the class and said, "Laura, that would probably be your lunch, right?" At the time, I laughed it off with the rest of my class and convinced myself that this is just how it is. People will always make fun of your eyes or your food or your culture because that's just what's funny. It took me a long time to figure out that humor should not be at other people's expense, and that who I am is not something to be made fun of, it is something to be so incredibly proud of. These times are challenging for people of color, to say the least, but even more so for young people trying to find themselves while society incessantly reinforces their inferiority. They say ignorance is bliss, and it is blissful to believe that children are safe within the confines of their childhood innocence, but that, unfortunately, is not true. I'm grateful enough to have supportive friends and family, but I know far too many people who are forced to grow up far too quickly due to issues that have been ingrained into the history of this country. The problem is a lack of accountability for detrimental actions at a young age because it's brushed off as, oh, they're a kid, they're just making fun. The problem is a lack of resources from the administration and education for people of color children. The problem is the normalization of these jokes and comments at a young age because ultimately the negative habits and stereotypes that you develop as children are the negative habits and stereotypes that you keep for life. To fight systemic issues in this country is not only to address issues among the grown-ups or the adults, it is also to recognize the uncomfortable truth that systemic racism reaches to our schools and our children. They are no less vulnerable to the real-world issues simply because they have 9 periods in a study hall. So I'm here at 15 from Orange High School to say that we need to ensure that the following generation does not have to face the same issues. They will not have to wonder if they belong, they will not have to wonder if they matter, because they will be accepted and loved unconditionally. Thank you.